Hello and welcome to the fog. Come, stay a while and listen. I've got something for you here. I'm Taylor, your casual crypt keeper. You know, we spend so much time chronicling the worst of the worst. The vile evils and foul creatures abound. But sometimes the good guys can be just as scary as the demons, if not outright worse. Say your prayers tonight, my ghouls and goblins, because these are the top 5 scary angels that even the demons fear. Drop a like down below if this sort of stuff really interests you. Let us know what kind of content you really like so we can start making it for you. Let's dive on in. Number 5, Arezethbou. Coming up first on our list of angels who are anything but angelic is Arezethbou, who would frequently correct the other angels on how his name was pronounced. He's a fairly obscure angel, but an incredibly powerful one of lore. Arezethbou introduces himself as a hostile threat to God, and would end up becoming a demon dueling with Moses, and fancies himself a nemesis to the kingdom of heaven. That's a lofty ambition. Arezethbou lived in heaven alongside the other angels and God, whom he served under. When Beelzebub left heaven, he took some buddies with him, and among them was our good friend Abe the Unpronounceable here. Beelzebub would explain to Solomon that during this fall, he took Arezethbou with him, who became a demon of the earth. In his newfound demon form, Arezethbou has one giant red wing, which took on a twisted, mutated form after he fell. As he was falling from the heavens, the other angels were all like, "Oh no, not Arezethbou, we love that guy!" And they tried to grab him to save him. But unfortunately it failed and his wings were torn off, and the little stump wing that remained mutated and twisted into a swollen, monstrous dark red wing, which would probably be terrible, but if you're like an edgy fallen angel, that's probably just perfect for your aesthetic. You probably look so cool. This demon saw himself not just as an enemy of God, but also to Moses, determining to make Moses' life just terrible. In the Testament of Solomon, he claims he was the source of all turmoil that Moses had encountered, confessing that he hardened the Pharaoh's heart against Moses, leading to the Exodus. When Moses led the Israelites across parted waters, the demon followed. When the Red Sea closed on the Pharaoh's army, Arezethbou found himself trapped in a pillar of air, trapping him inside, condemning him to support the pillar until the end of time. If you're looking for more scary stories about demons, angels, aliens, spaceships, monsters, cryptids, ghosts, goblins, and just about everything scary under the sun and above it, stay subscribed to Top 5 Scary and don't miss a minute. Number 4, Samael. As far as bad angels go, Samael is probably beat out only by the angels from Neon Genesis Evangelion for destruction. He's sometimes called the Angel of Death, which is how you know he's kind of bad news, and his name literally translates to Venom of God. You don't get to wave titles like that around without being pretty lethal to back it all up. Kind of like Azrael, Samael is fiercely loyal to God without question. Whatever God wants Samael to do, he'll do it. Good, evil, none of those things mean anything to him. He doesn't make choices or render judgment, he kind of just follows orders. If God told him to eat a can of worms, he'd do it. On the hour of a man's death, it's said that Samael will make himself known to you. He'll appear before you with his blade drawn, soaked in poison, God's venom. This poison is what truly severs a man's soul from this mortal coil, withering and rotting them as you get a taste for it. It's thought that this is where the term "to taste death" comes from. Samael is also known as the accuser, the seducer, and a midnight joker. He accused the Israelites of idolatry and condemned them all to an early death when they fled with Moses. He seduces humans into acts of evil, and well, I know this is making him sound like he's a really evil guy and he's doing evil acts, and sure, he does rub elbows with equal number of angels and demons, but he's just doing what he's paid to. Samael is God's will, but he's also kind of like God's mercenary, you know? He just does whatever he's asked. And he tries to test humanity and draw out their sinful and unrepentant ways so God can judge them properly. And those who fail will get another visit from Samael. He's not such an evil guy, he just flicks the switch. He's got a little bit of a friendly, brotherly rivalry with the Archangel Michael. Michael's role as an angel is to protect humanity, and Samael's is to vilify it. Michael defended the Israelites when Samael was accusing them, and Michael replaced Isaac with a ram so that Abraham wouldn't sacrifice him. They both want the same thing, you know, they just want to make God happy, they just go about it in slightly different ways. Number 3 is going to be Abbadon, one of many angels who is tasked with doling out divine judgment to humanity. He was sent by God to torture the earth and humanity as punishment for all of their sins. Ugh. Interestingly, in some truly ancient Gnostic texts, Abbadon actually helped out pitching in creating humanity. Oh. Thanks, man. It's said that he gathered handfuls of dirt from the earth for which God could craft Adam with. I did not know he was made out of dirt. Anyway, Abbadon helped start everything, so I guess it only seems fair and fitting that one day he's allowed to end everything. It's said during Judgment Day, Abbadon will gather the souls of the damned and carry them down to the place of God's final judgment. Jeez, with guys like these, what do we even need Satan for? His name, Abbadon, literally translates to the destroyer or the destruction, which is why he might actually be the real angel of death. I'm so sorry, Samael. I know you really wanted it, but Abbadon just worked like a little bit harder for it. There's a little bit of theological confusion when it comes to Abbadon, as depending on the source text, occasionally he's not an angel at all, but a subordinate of Satan, leading a pack of demons instead of anything divine. Even more interestingly than that, though, is that sometimes he's not even a living being. Sometimes he's straight up a place. In some Jewish and Christian texts, he's listed as a hellish abyss, thought to be another realm of the afterlife. For example, Job 31:12 refers to a fire that consumes to Abbadon. Some believe that Abbadon is both an entity and this bottomless pit afterlife realm, and he can manifest himself as both. Or maybe Abbadon was just a really common name back then, you know? Maybe there was a ton of Abbadons running around. Number 2. Azrael. Azrael is a lesser-known angel in Christian and Judaistic texts. He's an archangel of heaven, like Gabriel or Samael, but he commands frightening power as he is the angel of destruction. He was commanded by God himself to eradicate and renew life. He's an angel, sure, but he's kind of one of the scarier angels out there. He carries out the will of God no matter what that may entail. If he has to collect the souls of the dead or melt sinners with punishment, Azrael is totally game for it. Unlike some of these other fake angels, Azrael is always loyal to God above, no matter how heavy the task. You probably know that the cherubic depiction of angels that like greeting cards and cartoons use is a bit of a pop culture cleanup, and that biblically accurate angels are terrifying. I mean, there's a reason the first thing angels are always saying in biblical texts is, "Be not afraid." Maybe you've seen some of those biblically accurate angel memes, those are all gold. Well, Azrael is no different. There's no one definition of Azrael's form, but he doesn't always just look like a handsome human boy with wings. He usually is said to have 4 faces and a body covered in an infinite amount of fractally expanding eyes and tongues. And these eyes and tongues are supposed to represent the souls of man on earth. We all correlate. We all have an eye and a tongue on Azrael's big body somewhere. In Islamic texts, Azrael is said to have 70,000 feet and 4,000 wings and I guess just like 2 hands. Azrael across all texts is omnipotently powerful on a near cosmic scale. He's said to keep track of every single soul on earth and is responsible for all of them. In the Old Testament, King David committed adultery with a woman named Bathsheba, and when he confesses his sins to God, God rules the king can choose what punishment shall befall him. Well, King David was a little shy, so he lets God pick anyway, and God chooses one of his old classics, plague, and Azrael, happy to carry out the will of God, spreads a plague across Jerusalem, ending the lives of some 70,000 men. Well, if that's the case, at least he'll be losing some of those ever-expanding eyes and mouths, right? Probably fill up some space on the canvas. That's not so bad. And finally, number 1, Michael. In a modern context, I think there's something funny about putting the ultimate, scariest, most powerful angel out there is a being named Michael. Just knowing that God's most fearsome, loyal warrior could potentially go by Mikey kind of takes something away from him. Now, while most of the angels on this list kind of have like a dubious, morally gray reputation and sometimes get themselves involved on some very nasty business on God's behalf, Michael is the hero archangel. Michael is commonly depicted as a radiant, shining soldier wearing gold armor. He's beautiful, handsome, brave, and he carries with him a powerful sword and shield for which he can carry out God's will and protect man with. When you close your eyes and you kind of think of like a divine warrior, you're picturing Michael without you even knowing it. Michael is a legendary warrior in heaven's army, and he goes toe to toe with Satan in combat for the control of Moses' soul, most famously. Satan declared that Moses' soul was his for the taking, and since Moses had taken life before the Exodus, Satan thought he had a claim on this, but Moses was a servant of the Lord, so this wasn't going to work out. Michael flew down from up above to lay a celestial beatdown on the Prince of Darkness. Michael is almost like an angelic superhero, a light in the darkness, someone who swoops in to defend humanity from the legions of the world and the corruption of the damned. He's kind of like a total Boy Scout. He's also not just any old archangel, he's the archangel. The Greek etymology for archangel means chief angel, implying that Mikey here isn't just a really good angel, but like the captain of the angels, implying that there are no true peers on his level of devotion. During Judgment Day, when it's said a war of angels and demons will be carried out, Michael will be the commander leading the armies of heaven on the ground against the forces of evil. In the old scriptures, Michael only says one thing, and it's kind of like an action movie one-liner while he's fighting Satan. With sword drawn, Michael boasts, "The Lord rebuke you." Simple, to the point, very cool. Well, that's all she wrote, my ghouls and goblins. Thanks so much for watching, and creep on creeping on.